Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you are doing well. Today is 31st March and on this day we have decided to solve additional practice question paper which is issued by CBSE for the session 23-24. Questions from this question paper covers a wide range of topics which gives a perfect opportunity to brush up your knowledge. Then without further delay, let's get started. Take your time to understand each question thoroughly. Try solving them on your own first. Then compare your answer with the solutions provided. Here is the section A. Let's read the first question. We need to identify an invalid identifier. This question is easy. I hope you know all the rules to design valid identifiers. Special symbols are not allowed in identifiers, so this is an invalid identifier. Now let's look at the another examples. For is a keyword, but we have added here underscore, so it can be used as a variable. Look at the next example. While is a keyword, but here you can notice W is capital, so this can be worked as a identifier. Now what about this identifier? True is a keyword, but here T is in lowercase, so this is also a valid identifier. But we should always keep in mind that we should not design any confusing identifier like these three. We got conclusion that A is the correct answer. This is an invalid identifier. Let's move ahead to the second question. What is the correct way to add an element to the end of the list? Adding end of the list means it is a process of appending an item. As usual, I will repeat my suggestion to write all the functions and methods associated with string, list, tuple and dictionary on one paper, so that you will remember all of them. There is no method like add related to list. Then what about the remaining three? These all are valid methods. But what's the question? We have to add an element at the end of the list. For that you should have clear understanding of those three. For appending item we can use append or extend, but append is used to append a single element, whereas extend method is used to append a list of the elements. So this is all about appending an item. If you want to insert an item at any position, you can use insert method. In this way, we got to know that we will be using append method. So B is the correct choice. Now let's read the next question. It is based on string slicing. When we run this print statement, we got this output. How we will check it? For this string, here is the slicing part. This is the starting and ending index we don't include. So the slicing will start from the index 2 and it will go up to 5. Look at the indices of the string. We will be getting L, C, O and M. Now moving ahead to the second string. Here the starting will be 5 and ending will be 8. Based on these indices we will be getting string M, E, then space and T. In the print statement we are using concatenation operator, so both the strings will get concatenated and finally we will be getting this output. Hope you understood this explanation. It's time to discuss the fourth question. Which of the following statement is false? It is related to exception handling. Let's read the first statement. A try except block can have more than one except statement. I hope you know all the blocks we use for exception handling. For one try block, there can be many except blocks which will be handling different types of exceptions. So from the syntax we understood that first statement is true. Let's read the second statement. One block of except statement cannot handle multiple exception. You know, in exception, if we don't mention specific exception, it can handle any type of exception. What about the third statement? The finally block is always executed. Yes, it is true. Finally block is always executed whether the exception arises or not. Moving ahead to the last statement. When 1 is equals to 1 is executed, no exception is raised. Then let's try to execute this command. You will be getting false. We are not getting any exception because integer 1 is not equals to string 1. That's why we are getting answer false. Ultimately this statement is also true. So the correct option is B. This statement is false. Now we are at the fifth question. We need to tell which statement will result in error. Let's check out the code. We are initializing one dictionary. So here is the key and the corresponding value. Similarly, this is the second key value pair. Look at the third key value pair. This is key and we have list as a values. Moving ahead to the fourth pair, we have key as a string and value as a tuple. In the first statement, we are printing the dictionary, so it will not give any error. Now let's check out the second statement. In this, we are going to update the value of the badminton by cricket. This is also fine. We can change the content of the list because it is mutable data type. Moving ahead to the next statement. Key is score, means we are trying to change in this key value pair. Look at the values. We have values in the form of tuple. At the index 0, we have 77 that we want to update to 50. But you know, tuple is immutable data type. Modifications or updations it doesn't allow. So this statement will give error to us. So the correct option is statement 3. Let's read the next statement also. In this statement, we are trying to change the value of the PNO to 50. This is also fine. It will not give any error. So in this way, our correct option should be C, that is statement 3. Let's proceed to the next question. If you know the answer, pause the video and write the answer in the comments. Which pickle module method is used to write a Python object to a binary file? We don't use first three methods, so ultimately the correct option is D. To write data, we use dump function, and to read data, we use load function in case of binary files. This question was quite easy. I have one more suggestion. Write all the functions and methods associated with all three files: text file, binary file as well as CSV files. It's time to check out the seventh question. The question is, which statement will append the content of dictionary marks in dictionary student? Look at the options. We don't have add function, even we don't have merge function. So from the given options, only one function is familiar, that is update. So our correct option is D. Do you have any idea? Can we use plus operator in case of dictionary? Pause the video and let me know your views on this. Let's check out directly in the IDE what we will be getting if we apply concatenation operator on the dictionary. We are getting error that we cannot use this plus operator in case of dictionary. We can use plus operator in case of string as a concatenation operator. It will concatenate the tuple elements as well as the list elements, but we cannot use this plus operator in case of dictionary. What's the reason for that? I think it is not clear how it should handle duplicate keys and the conflicting values. Hope that is clear to you now. Let's move ahead to the next question. Which of the following is not a component of the math module? We studied maximum functions of the math module in class 11 and some in class 12 too. If you know the answer, you can skip this part and proceed. The first function is self function. It is a part of math module. You know it will give the value greater than or equal to x. The next function is mentioned, that is fabs. It gives the absolute value. Means if it is a minus 10, it will give plus 10. You have studied this in maths also. There is one more option, pi. Pi is not a function, but it is a constant which gives the pi value. Hey, then we know now what is the correct option. It's B. Mean is not a function of math module. Time to check out the ninth question. What will be the output of the following code? Solve this along with me. If you know the answer, let me know in the comments. This question is designed in such a way which will confuse you. Alright then, let's solve this. First is length of L. The length of L will be 3. You can see here there are 3 elements of the list. So 3 divided by 2. If we calculate 3 divided by 2, we will be getting 1.5. Now let's calculate length of L of 0. At the 0th index, we have this string. Calculate the length of it. Look at the string carefully which is at the index 0. The length of this you will be taking as 9. We will consider one extra space here and one here too. 3 plus 3, 6, 7 is comma, 8 and 9. Now you will ask me, if we don't consider that space, then the length of L of 0 will be 7. If you will multiply 7 with 1.5, you will be getting answer which is not present in the option. That's why you need to consider it as a 9. So considering the length of the element at index 0, 9. Ultimately we will be getting 1.5 into 9. And the answer is 13.5. In this way, after calculation, the correct option is C, 13.5. We are at the 10th question. Expand the following term. These two terminologies are very important. PPP is point-to-point protocol and VoIP is voice over internet protocol. Alright then, let's move ahead to the next question. Which SQL operator is used for pattern matching? And it is like operator. Time to check out 12th question. Which Python function is used for displaying only one result set from the SQL table? This is related to connectivity. We have three types of fetch function. Fetch many, fetch one and fetch all. Fetch all will return all the records. Fetch one will return a single record, and in fetch many we can mention the number of records. So based on the options, we have correct option as D, fetch one. What's the 13th question? Which of the following file opening mode in Python generates error if file does not exist? I hope you have clear understanding of the file modes. In case of write mode and the append mode, if file doesn't exist, it will create a new file. But in case of reading mode, if file doesn't exist, it will give error. So the correct option is R mode, that is read mode. If you want to take screenshot of this, you can take it and refer it later. Alright, it's time to move ahead to the next question. What is the correct syntax of seek function? Here is the complete syntax for you. Seek means you know, to find out. Seek function used along with file object, and there are two parameters. First is offset. Offset is a number which specifies the number of bytes. And the second parameter is optional, that is reference point. It is a number which indicates the position of the file. Okay, now tell me what is the correct option. You are absolutely right. It is A. Moving ahead, and let's discuss 15th question. Which of the following statement is false? Let's read the first statement. SMTP and POP protocols are used in mail communication. Yes, this is correct. What's the second statement? URL of a page is not always same as domain's name. It is also true statement. What's the next statement? HTTPS is safer than HTTP. Yes, it is a secure version of HTTP. So this statement is also correct. Now the remaining is the last one. Let's check out. Interlinking of collection of web pages is called internet. This is false statement. You know, interlinking of web pages is a website. That was little easy. Let's move ahead to the next question. Dash protocol provides access to services hosted on a remote computer. From the given options, PPP and SMTP we use for email communication. FTP is a file transfer protocol. So the remaining one is C, Telnet. Telnet is used to access remote computers. Now we are at the last section, that is assertion and reasoning. Read these questions carefully and try to fit the answers with these given options. So let's read the 17th one. For changes made to a variable defined within a function to be visible outside a function, it should be declared as global. This is related to function. If you all familiar with the concept of function, this statement is true. Now let's read the reasoning for that. Variable defined within a function are local to that function by default. Yes, we know that unless explicitly specified with the global keyword. This statement is true. If we look at the option, A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation for A. So the answer for the 17th question is A. By default, any variable will be local to that block. If you want to access the element outside the function, we should make it global. Finally, we are at the last question. Let's read it. Assertion is: a binary file in Python is used to store collection objects like list and dictionaries that can later retrieved in their original form using pickle module. This statement is true. We use pickle module for pickling and unpickling. But let's check out what's the reasoning for it. Binary file are just like normal text file and can be read using a text editor like Notepad. This is false. So if we look at the option, C is the correct choice for us. A is true but R is false. We cannot open binary file in a Notepad. In this way, we solve all the 18 questions from the section A. Now it's time to check out section B. Let's read the 19th question. Write 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of circuit switching. Let's go through the answer which is given in the marking scheme. I hope you know what is circuit switching. In case of circuit switching, there is a direct connection or dedicated path is established between sender and the receiver. To understand this concept, you can take example of telephone line. So here are some of the advantages. A dedicated communication channel increases the quality of the communication. As there is a dedicated path, a separate path for the communication, it increases the quality. The second advantage can be it is suitable for long continuous communication because it doesn't face any disturbance, any interference. Now moving ahead to the disadvantages. First is resources are not utilized fully. How? Let's understand. Suppose you called a friend but at the same time you got some emergency work and asked him to wait. So at this moment there is no exchange of information but still line is busy. The second disadvantage is time required to establish the physical link between two stations is too long. Yes, it takes time to put the physical line between sender and the receiver. This is a theory question, you can write your own answer too. Time to check out the OR part of the same question. Differentiate between web server and web browser. Write the names of any two web browsers. We all are familiar with the relationship between server and the browser. It is a client-server technology. Alright then, let's check out web browser. It receives and displays web content. What is its function? Initiate request to web server and displays the content for the user. Browser will send request to the server. Server will process that request and delivers the content to the browser and the browser will then display it. Then let's check out about web browser. What is the purpose? It delivers content to the client. And what's the function? It listens to the incoming request, processes them and send the requested content to the client. This is nothing but the concept of client-server technology. And here are some of the names of the web browser. Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or you can write Microsoft Edge 2. So that was another question based on networking concept. It's a theoretical concept, you can write your own answer too, but the concept should be clear. Moving ahead to the next question, we have to rewrite the code by removing all the syntax error. The correction which we'll be doing in the code should be underlined. This type of questions are easy. If you know the answer, you can skip this portion. Let's start from the first statement. This looks okay. Look at the second statement now. When we look at the keyword while, we notice that W is capital. So that's the first error. In this way we got the first error. We will be correcting it, underline it, and it will be good if you will mention it also. Whenever we use any looping statement or conditional statement to create block, we write colon. So that is also an error. We should be correcting it. The block of while got created, and if we look at the next two statement, it should be a part of that block. That's why the indentation of these two statements should not be in line with while. Proceeding to the next statement. Else is a keyword but E is not capital. So correct it, and that is also one of the error. E is capital. In this way we detected all the error. So you need to detect 4 errors. You will be getting half mark for each error. Now let's read the next question. We will be writing one user defined function named displayBook which takes parameter as books. Books is a dictionary. Now what that function will be doing? It will be displaying the name of the books, but the condition is the name should start with the consonant. As you all know, alphabets are divided into two categories, vowels and consonants. Vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and the other than vowels will be consonants. So from dictionary we will be printing the name of the books like Python and networking. These are the name of the books which are not starting with the vowels. And we have to keep in mind that the names are in uppercase. Alright then, it's time to code. According to the instructions, we have taken one dictionary and created the user defined function that we are calling. Now let's write the code in the user defined function. We are interested in the values of the dictionary. How to access the values of the dictionary? Let's iterate over each value. For take any variable item in the name of the dictionary is books, and we will be using values function to access the values of the dictionary. In this way we will be iterating over all the values of the dictionary. Let's print and check it whether we are getting values or not. For that we have used the variable item. Let's run and check it. You can see the output. We are getting all the books name, that is the values of the dictionary, but we don't have to print all the books name. Now let's check the criteria. Then what's the criteria? The criteria is book name should start with the consonant. So for that we need to check only the first alphabet. Anyhow we are getting the items in the form of string, so let's extract the first alphabet using the index. So at the 0th index we will be getting first alphabet. Let's make sure that we are getting the first alphabet or not correctly. So from the output we could see that we are getting the first alphabet of book name. Now we have to check whether it is a consonant or not. It will be easy to check this that it is not a vowel. Let's remove these two statements and apply if condition. If first not in operator we will be using here. And here in the form of string we will be mentioning all the vowels. As the first letter is in uppercase, we will mention only uppercase vowels. Hope you got this condition. First of all we will be getting P. It will check that P is not in A, E, I, O, U. If it is not in A, E, I, O, U, we have to print that book name. And while printing we have to convert it to uppercase. The complete book name we are getting in the items variable, that we will be converting to uppercase. Let's run this program and check the output. You can see here we are getting the required output, the book's name starting with the consonant, that too converted to uppercase. Now you can also try yourself. In the marking scheme the code is given like this. If you understood this, you can go ahead or you can write in your own way. Now it's time to check out the OR part of the same question. Here is the user defined function name find word. It takes two parameters. The first is string and the second is search. We need to write the code for this function in which we are going to count the occurrence of the word search in the string. What exactly we have to do, you will understand with this one example. Here is the string and the search word is history. So in the given string we could see the history word occurs thrice, that we have to print. This should be our output. Okay, to write code we are in the IDE. Whenever we need to write code in which we have to count the words or display the words of the string, first of all we need to split that string. And to split the words of the string we have split function. The name of the string is string dot split. By default it will split based on space. Here we will be getting one list of the split words. Now we will be iterating over the list. So for word in words list. From the given string we need to check the occurrence of the word history. So let's compare that word is equals to history or not. So for that we will be using if statement. If word is equals to history. All the history words are in lower case. So no need to bother about the case sensitivity. Okay, now first let's make sure that we are getting the words correctly or not. From the output we could see that we searched the history word correctly. It is 3 times, but we don't have to print it. We have to print the occurrence of the history word. Let's take one variable count equals to 0, and if we will get that word we will be incrementing it by 1. So count plus equals to 1. Let's comment this print statement. After iterating through the whole list, we need to print it. So it will be at the indentation level as for. Let's check the exact wordings for the output. The word history occurs 3 times. So let's write the required statement. The word history occurs, comma, the name of the variable where we are counting is count, and then again we need message times. Let's check the output. So here is the required output. The word history occurs 3 times. Instead of history, you can write the variable name search2. When we look at the question, there is one more thing mentioned here. Write appropriate statement to call the function. So we need to write the statements to call the function also. As this user defined function is taking 2 arguments, so we should pass that parameters. The first is string that we have mentioned, and the search word also we have provided. And here is the call statement. For the search word, you can even take input instead of initializing it. Hope you understood this code too. Try it yourself. Here is the code for the same in the marking scheme. Whichever you feel easy, you can go ahead with it. In this way, the coding part is over. Now let's move ahead to the next question, that is 22nd. What will be the output of the following code? We can find out the output of this code easily with the dry run. So let's go through the code. One list is initialized along with one variable named G. After this, directly the control will come to the call statement. L is getting passed to the user defined function named change. So L will become X. With the global word, we are accessing this variable G inside the function. So the value of G will be 4. In the next statement, we are calculating the length of X. Length of X means length of L. There are 4 elements in the list. So N will be 4. Look at the next for loop. For I in range N. N is 4. So the value of I will be from 0 to 3. Now let's evaluate this expression. X of I is equals to X of I plus G. So in the first pass, the value of I is 0. So X of 0 plus G. Look at the element at the 0th index. It is 5. So 5 and G is 4. It will become 9. In the same way, we will be calculating for the other values of I. In the second pass, the value of I will be 1. At the index 1, we have element 10. So 10 plus 4 will be 14. Moving ahead to the third pass, the value of I will be 2. At the second index, we have element 15. Then it will be 15 plus 4, that is 19. Moving ahead to the next pass, the value of I will be 3. At the index 3, we have element 1. 1 plus 4 will be 5. All the iteration got over, we will come back to the main program. There is one more for loop. For I in L. Means we are iterating through the list elements. Now the list elements are 9, 14, 19 and 5. Okay, let's check out the print statement, what we are going to print. So first element of the list will get printed, followed by dollar symbol. Okay, then tell me what will get printed. The first element is 9, then dollar symbol. The second element is 14, then dollar symbol. Again the third element is 19, followed by dollar symbol, and finally 5 will get printed, and at last the dollar symbol will get printed. In this way we will be getting this output. Hope you understood this explanation. In this code, we were passing list to the user defined function, and the changes made inside the user defined functions are getting reflected back to main. Why? Because lists are mutable. When we pass list as an argument to the user defined function, it creates a reference. That's why when we modify the list, it will be visible outside the function also. You know one thing, if we pass immutable data type to function, the changes will not reflect back to main. With that note, let's check out the next question. This is very easy, you can try it yourself. If you know the answer, you can skip this part. Here we will be writing Python statements for the following task. The first is to delete an element Mumbai 50 from dictionary D. I will be taking answer from the marking scheme. It's so easy. We are using del statement. What's the syntax? We need to write the dictionary name and in bracket we will be mentioning key. So the name of the dictionary is D and the key is Mumbai. Because it is clearly mentioned here as a key value pair. So Mumbai is the key. Moving ahead to the next task. To display words in a string S in the form of list. Just now we wrote one code in which we were trying to search for the word history. So we know if we want to split the words of the string, we will be using split function. That's why we will be writing s.split. S is the variable in which string is stored. Now let's discuss the OR part of the same question. Write a Python program to display alternate characters of a string. The name of the string is myString. Here is a given example. The given string is computer science and we will be printing the alternate character from the given string. Let's write the program directly in the IDE. Here is the given string. To print the alternate character, we will be doing slicing of the string to print alternate characters. That we will be storing in a new variable. We will be writing the name of the string on which we are applying slicing. From the given output, it is clear that we are scanning the whole string. That's why we will be skipping the starting part and the ending part too. And the third part is the step part. For that we will be writing 2. We know that in case of step we don't include the upper limit. So the step will be 1. Means we will be skipping the alternate character from the string. The next task is to print that string. So let's write the name of the string where we are getting the alternate characters. Amazing! We got the required output. So this was the program to print the alternate characters of the string. Hope you are enjoying this session. Alright then, let's move ahead to the next question. Differentiate between % and underscore character which is used with the like operator with appropriate examples. You can very well understand the answer from the marking scheme. You know with the like operator when we use % symbol, it will match any number of characters. So that is the first point. It matches any sequence of characters. You can consider any example. T% means the string will start with T with any number of character. And what about underscore? It matches only a single character. The first character can be anything, the second character also can be anything, but the third character should be T. So with this pattern matching you will be getting the words like this: cat, mat. First letter can be anything, second can be anything, but the third should be T. That was also quite simple. Let's move ahead to the last question of the section B. Always read the question carefully. There are two commands with the reference to a table. The table name is employee and the column name is department. So here are these two statements where we could see count star and the count function is used. Let's check the question. If these two commands are producing different results, what may be the possible reason? Which command A or B might be giving higher value? I know you all are familiar with the difference between count star function and the count function. Count star function counts all the rows of the table including null also. Where count function we apply on a particular column and it will not consider null values. Let's read this answer also from the marking scheme. Count star returns all the rows in a table, whereas count function is used with the column name passed as an argument and counts the number of not null values. Hence the result will differ. Yes, we know that the result will be different. And there is one more question, that which function will give the higher value. As count star will count the null values also, ultimately it will be giving the higher value. Oops, we forgot to check out the OR part of the 24th question. So let's read it. The difference between drop and delete command. We discussed some MySQL Viva questions. In that we discussed the difference too. But let's check out once again. Moving to the marking scheme. We use drop command to remove the table. Even it is used for deleting the database. It will be good always to write the example. Drop table student. It will remove the student table from the database. Now what about delete command? Delete command is used to delete the rows from the table. Take any random example. Delete from student where percentage is less than 33. It will remove all the records of the students having percentage less than 33. Alright, it's time to move ahead to the section C. Let's read the first question from the section C, that is 26th question. This question is based on MySQL. There are two tables. The first table name is book and the second table name is member. Moving ahead, let's check the question. The first question based on table is what will be the output of the following statement, and in this statement we are doing the natural join of the two tables. I hope your concepts of joins are crystal clear. If not, I will suggest you to go through this video at the speed of 2x so that all the concepts related to joins will get recalled. Now let's check out the output of the natural join. All the columns of the first table will get printed. This is the first column, this is the second, and here is the third column of the first table. Now look at the columns of the second table. The first column of the second table is getting printed. Even the second column is also getting printed. When we look at the next column, that is code, this column is present in the book table also. So in case of natural join, the columns with the same name of the associated table will appear only once. You can see here the column code is already printed. That's why it will not get printed again. Then moving ahead to the next column, issue date is getting printed. So that was natural join. In case of natural join, the repeated column will get displayed once. Here we got an idea about fields. Now what about records? Do we have any doubts? No, right? It's a join and we will be getting common records. There are total 3 common records in the table. So we will be getting all those 3 records. Proceeding to the B part of the same question. Here is one table, employee. Let's check out the question. We need to predict the output of the given queries. Okay, then let's read the first query. Select name. So name column will get printed, that we have mentioned. After name, the second column is project, that also we have mentioned. From employee, what's the criteria? Order by name in the descending order. So we are going to print the names in the descending order. That's why the first name got printed with S, then R, M. And if we look at the last two names, both are getting started with the alphabet A. Then which one will get printed first? In such cases where the first alphabet is same, the comparison will continue to the next character. Now we will check the second character. First L will come, then K will come. That's why first Alex got printed and later Akhtar. Followed by name, their corresponding project also getting printed. So that was the output of the query. Hope you understood it. Let's check the next query. Select name. First column is name. Second column we are going to print, that is salary. From table name, it's time to check out the condition where name like A%. We know how this works. Starting will be A and the remaining characters can be anything because % matches any number of characters. So if we look at the name column, there are two names starting with A, Akhtar and Alex. In this way we got this output, name starting with A followed by their corresponding salary. Time to check out the third query. Select name and date of joining. Okay, let's write the two columns. From employee, let's check the criteria with the where clause. Salary between 1 lakh and 2 lakh. Okay, then look at the column salary. The first salary is 1,50,000. It satisfies the criteria. That's why the first name will get printed, that is Ranjan. If we look at the next record, the salary is 1,25,000. Okay, it satisfies the criteria, so it will get printed. Moving ahead to the next record. The salary is 1,35,000. It also satisfies the criteria. That's why the name Munira and the corresponding date of joining for that employee will get printed. We got the required output. We are at the last query. Select star from employee where project equal to P01. We will be printing all the fields for the employee which will satisfy this criteria. Then look at the project column. We could see P01 twice. So these two records will get printed. That too all the fields of these two records. That's why we will be getting this output. Hope you understood this concept too. 26 question got over. Now it's time to check question number 27. This question is also based on MySQL. Let's check out. There are two tables. The first table is faculty and the second table is courses. Let's scroll down and check the question. Here too we need to find the output of the following queries. Okay, we are ready to find out the output. Let's read the first query. Select FID, minimum of fees and maximum of fees. So these three fields will be getting printed that we have mentioned. From table name, group by FID. Now look at the courses table as mentioned. We are doing grouping on the FID and we have to find out the minimum of fees and the maximum of fees. Let's check out for the first FID. First FID is F01. The fees for FID 01 is 40,000 and there is one more record. The fees is 12,000. Out of these two we know what is minimum, that is 12,000. So that we will be writing here. We got minimum as 12,000, then maximum will be 40,000. So that will get displayed. In this way we will be calculating minimum of fees and maximum of fees for the rest of the FID. The next is F04. There are two records. Minimum we could see is 15,000 and maximum is 17,000. For F03 there is only one record. So that will be minimum and the same will be maximum too. At last we have FID F05 and the fees is null. So in both the places we will be writing null. Let's erase the scribbling and moving ahead to the next query. Select average of salary from faculty where F name like %A. Here the table name is faculty. So look at the faculty table. We are interested in the F name whose starting characters can be anything but the last should be A. From the table Anisha and Neha satisfies the criteria. For them we need to calculate average of salary. So Anisha's salary is 32,000 and let's check the Neha salary. Neha salary is 27,000. To calculate average we need to add them. So we got 59,000 and there are two records. So we will be dividing 59 by 2. In this way we will be getting average salary as 29,500. The header for the column will be as mentioned after the select clause. It's time to check out the third query. Select F name, okay, that we will mention, and the second column is C name, that also we will mention. From faculty and courses, here we are going to combine both the tables. That's why we have given some alias to it so that it will be easy to write the query. Now F is the name of the faculty and C is the name of the courses table. With where clause generally we combine and we mention the criteria too. This is the first statement which is used to combine or join two tables in which we take the common column. You can see here FID is the common column and with the AND operator we will mention the required condition. Courses.fid should be F04. We could have written here C.fid but that's not a problem. We understood what we want. So look at the courses table. There are two records with FID F04. For this F04, C name we are getting as Python and computer network. So that we got, but we need F name too. That we will be getting from the faculty table. So faculty name for the F04 is Neha. Neha took two courses. Let's erase everything and move ahead to the next query. Select F name, C name and fees. There are three columns which we are going to display. Okay, let's move ahead to the next part. From faculty F and courses C. Here also we are considering both the tables. Means first we will join it and then we will see the criteria. So here is the statement to join. And the criteria we are mentioning with the AND operator. fees should be greater than 15,000. CNAME and fees we will be getting from the courses table and FNAME we will be getting from the faculty. So let's try to match it. In the first record, the fees is 40,000, means it satisfies the criteria as it is greater than 50,000. For that fees, we will be printing CNAME, that is grid computing, and the name we will be getting from the faculty. Let's try to find out the name for this faculty F01, that is Anisha. So we got this record, Anisha, grid computing, and the fees is 40,000. In the same way, let's check the remaining fees. The next fees is 70,000. It is also more than 15,000. CNAME for that is Python and the faculty ID is F04. The name of the F04 faculty ID is Neha. So we could see here that is also displayed in the output. Next fees is 18,000. It doesn't match the criteria. Moving ahead to the next fees, it is 15,000, but the condition is fees should be greater than 15,000, not greater than equal to. It doesn't satisfy the criteria. Next record also doesn't satisfy the criteria, even the last record. Finally, we will be getting this output. Hope you understood this explanation. If you have any doubt, let me know in the comments. Part A of the 27th question got over. Moving ahead to the part B. Write the name of the command to display the structure of the table in a database. To describe structure of the table, we use DESC command. DESC, then the table name. Write any random example like DESC and then mention any table name. Here we are mentioning the name of the table as student. I will suggest you to go through all the commands of the MySQL because it is very important. Almost 10 marks will be covered based on MySQL. Alright then, moving ahead to Python. Let's read the 28th question. Write a function named count. What's that count function will be doing? It will read a text file. Name is gratitude. And then we need to display the count of the letter E in each line. Look at the example, there are total 4 lines. So we need to print the count of E in each line. Okay then, it's time to code. According to the program, we need to read the gratitude.txt file. But for that, we need the text file. But we are not going to create a text file by writing code. Then what we can do? Just go to Notepad and then paste the content from the question paper. Save that file with the same name as mentioned in the question paper, that is gratitude. The extension will be .txt. Let's create the function with the def keyword. The name of the function is count. The first task is to open the text file in the read mode. For that we will be using open function. The name of the file is gratitude.txt and the mode will be R mode. By default it will open in the read mode, so you can skip the mode. File is open in the read mode. Now the next task is to read the content of the file. There are total 3 functions to read the content of the text file: read, read line and read lines. Now we will be using read lines functions because we have 4 lines. To make sure that file content is getting read, we will print and check it. Let's call this function. So this is clear now that we could read the file content. Using readlines functions, we will be getting the file content in the form of list. Now we will be iterating over the list for line in lines. Now we need to count the occurrence of the letter E in each line. So to store the count of each line, we will be taking one variable and initializing it to 1. To count the occurrence of the letter E, we will be using count function. Let's print each line and the count of the letter E. So for that we will be writing message line. Then the line number should get printed. For that we have taken variable num. After that we will be printing colon. We are formatting it according to the required output. After that the count should get printed. For that we will apply the count function on the line variable. So line dot count and the letter is E. That we will be mentioning here. In this way the occurrence for the line 2 should get printed. For that we will be incrementing the num variable. I think the coding part is over. Now we will close the file. Let's run and check the output. In this way, I think we got the required output. In line number 1, the count of E is 3, then 4, then 6, then 1. Look at this required output. We too got same. Hope you understood that code. There is a OR part for the same question. We have to consider the same gratitude.txt file. But what's the question? We have to display the lines starting with I. These two lines should get printed which are starting with the letter I. Alright then, let's modify the same program. The name of the function is start with I. We have opened the file and using readLines functions we are reading the files. Now to check whether that line is getting started with I or not, we need to iterate over the list. For that we will be using same for loop for line in lines. Let's print and check whether we are getting line by line or not. So let's print this variable and check how we are getting the output. You can see here we are getting the content of the file line by line, but there is a empty line too. To remove this extra line, you know what we do. We use end parameter. Now the output is perfectly fine, but we don't have to print all the 4 lines. We have to print the lines which are starting with the letter I. For that we will be using condition. These lines are in the form of string. Now we will be checking the first character of the line is equals to I or not. That we will be getting using index. If line of 0 is equals to I, that too capital I we will be taking. If it is yes, then we will print that line. Let's run and check the output. Yes, we are getting the required output. Only those lines are getting printed which are starting with the letter I. Hope you have understood this code too. Try it yourself. From Python, we are moving ahead to again MySQL. Though question looks very lengthy, read it carefully. Here is a table result with some data. Now based on the given data, answer the following questions. If you know the answer, anytime you can skip that part and proceed to the next question. Alright then, let's read the first question. Identify the columns which can be considered as a candidate keys. Candidate keys are the keys which can be a primary key. And to become any candidate key as a primary key, it should be unique. If it is duplicate, it cannot be a candidate key too. So look at the columns which are unique. You can see roll number is unique. Obviously it will be. And look at the admission number column. This also looks unique. There are no duplicate values. That's why admission number and the roll number can be candidate keys. It's time to read next query. If 2 more columns are added and 3 rows are deleted from the table result, what will be the new degree and cardinality of the above table? You know what is degree and cardinality, right? We link car word of the cardinality to rows. That means cardinality are rows and the degree is column. First we will check out the current degree and the cardinality. There are total 7 rows and the degrees are 6. Now let's come back to the question. 2 more columns are added. We are going to add columns that are 2. So total columns will be 8. So the degree is 8 and 3 rows we are going to delete. So 7 minus 3 will be 4. In this way we got the answer degree 8 and cardinality is 4. What's the next question? Write a statement to increase semester 2 marks by 3% for the student securing marks between 70 to 100. To update already inserted record, we use update query. Update, then name of the table is result. We use set clause. We need to increase the semester 2 marks by 3%. So 3% we will be writing as 0.03. Then adding it to the current semester 2 marks, we will get the increased one. And there is a condition for whom we have to give this increased semester 2 marks. That condition we will be writing with where clause. Where semester 2 mark should be between 70 and 100. To give that range, we will be using between operator between 70 and 100. So the query will be like this. Hope you are enjoying this session. We are at the last question of the section C, that is 30th question. There is one dictionary. The name of the dictionary is Student Dictionary, which contains the marks of the students for 3 test series. Look at the key value pair. Key is student ID and the values is given in the form of tuple. We need to write some user defined function to perform specified operations on the stack. The name of the stack is student STK. What is the first user defined function? Push elements. What this function will be doing? It will push the IDs of those students from this dictionary into the stack who have scored more than 80 marks in the test series 3. In this question we are working on the data structure stack. You know what is stack, right? Stack is a data structure in which we can add the element or remove the element but from the last position. And in Python we implement stack using list. So we will be using some methods of the list to perform these operations. So to add the element we will be using append function because append function adds the element at the last. Similarly, to remove the element from the last position we will be using function pop. In this way we will be working according to the restrictions of the stack. Okay, then let's move to the IDE. Alright then, look at the code. Here is the given dictionary with the given data. We have initialized student stack, that is an empty list, which will be storing the IDs of the students who got more than 80 marks in the test series 3. According to the instructions, here is the user defined function which is taking 2 parameters, the stack and the dictionary. Now we will be iterating over the data of the dictionary. That too we need both keys and values. So we will be writing for the key is student ID and then we have marks. In we will be iterating over dictionary. So the name of the dictionary is student dictionary and we will be using here items function because we need both the keys and values. Now the criteria is we have to check the marks in the test series 3. Get the key value pair of the dictionary. Key is student ID, the marks are the values and the marks of the test series is in the form of tuple. We need to check the marks of the test series 3 which will be at the index 2. This is the 0th index, then first and then 2. With the if we will be checking the criteria. We have all the values in the variable marks and at second index we will be getting the test series 3 marks which should be greater than or equal to 80. If this criteria satisfies, we have to add the student ID into the stack. The name of the stack is student stack. We will be using append function to append the element to the stack. And what we have to append to the stack? Only student ID. So that we will be writing here. I think our code is done. Let's run and check the output. We are not getting any output because we are not printing the stack. Let's print it. Print the name of the stack is student stack. So that we will mention here. Now let's check out. We got this output. Is it correct? Let's check out. For the first key value pair, the marks for the test series 3 is 89. Yes, it is greater than or equal to 80. So 5 got added. Let's move ahead to the next key value pair. Here it is 61. That's why 10 is not got added. Moving to the third key value pair, it is 90. Greater than 80. That's why 12 got added. Then it is 80. Yes, it also satisfies the criteria. It is greater than or equal to 80. So 14 got added. And moving ahead to the last key value pair. Here it is 91. 18 also got added to the stack. That's why the output is like this. In this way, the first operation of adding an element, that is pushing an element in the stack, got over. In this way we got the required output. We push the elements to the stack. Now let's check out the second user defined function. Here we need to pop the element. Remove an element in case of stack is called as popping an element. That is a pop operation. We need to remove all the elements present inside the stack in the LIFO order, last in first out. Means we will be removing the item from the last position. First 18 should get removed, then 14, 12, then 5. Let's continue the question. The function also should print stack is empty when there are no elements in the stack and call both the function to execute. Alright then, coming back to the same program. Now we have to pop the element. We have to write the code in such a way that we will keep on popping the elements from the list until it is empty. For that we need to write the while loop. While, then we will calculate the length of the stack. The name of the stack is student stack. If the length of the stack is greater than 0, we will keep on popping the element. For that we will be using pop function of the list, because stack we are implementing using list. Pop will ultimately delete the last item from the list. We can directly print the pop item so that we will come to know which element is getting popped, because pop function returns the popped element. Let's run and check the output. You can see here we are getting the required output. First 18 got deleted, then 14, after that 12 and finally 5. But according to the question, we should also print stack is empty when all the elements will get popped. For that we can use else part of the while loop. When this while loop will terminate normally, it will come to the else part. We will be printing message that stack is empty. Now let's run and check the output. It is perfectly fine. Here we are pushing the elements. Next we are popping the elements, and when the stack is empty we are getting the message. So here is the complete code for that. We need to write these two statements also to call the functions as it is mentioned in the question. With question number 30 we have successfully completed section C. Now we will move ahead to the section D. Alright then, we are gonna read the first question from the section D. It is based on CSV file. There is a CSV file name record. It is already created with this content. Now we are gonna write one function max salary. What this function will be doing? It will read all the records from this file. And we need to display the rows where the salary is maximum. If we consider same data, we will be getting this row because Pijesh has maximum salary. Let's understand the concept. I hope you know the steps to read data from the CSV file. To work with CSV files, we need to import CSV module, but that we can skip as we are writing user defined function. In the next step, we will be opening the CSV file in the read mode. Followed by that step, we will be creating one reader object. With the reader object, we got the data that we will be processing according to the instructions. Finally, we will close the file. Now let's try to understand what's the criteria. We got the data into reader object that we will be processing row by row. We are interested into the column salary, which is at the index 3. We need to find out the maximum salary among all salaries. Now how we will get that maximum salary? Suppose these are the given salaries. We will take one variable to find out the maximum of these salaries, which will be initialized to 0 in the beginning. While scanning the file content row by row, we will compare max variable with this column. If this salary is more than 0, that salary will be assigned to the max variable. In the same way, we will be comparing the first value to the second value. If second value is greater than the first value, the second value will be maximum. We will be repeating this process for all the rows. Finally, we will get the maximum salary in the max variable. And we are interested into that record. Now look at the code. Using for loop, we are iterating over each row. If integer of row 3 is greater than maximum, initially max is 0. And row 3 means we are accessing the salary column and changing into integer, because by default it will be string. In the first pass, we are getting value 65,400, and yes, it is greater than max. So that value will get assigned to the max, means now max is 65,400. As we have to print that whole row, we will be assigning that row to one variable named record. So this process will go on till end of the file. In the second pass, the value of the salary is 60,000. Let's compare whether it is greater than max or not. Now the max value is 65,400. No, it is not greater than that. Then it will move ahead to the next record. Means in the third pass the value of salary is 45,300. Is it greater than 65,400? No. So after executing the for loop, we got the whole row with the maximum salary that we are going to print. We know the last step is to close the file. While writing this code, we need to take care of one more thing. As you can see, this CSV file contains column header. When we apply for loop and access the content of the file row by row, header also will get traversed. And to get the required output, we are applying int function on this column. These are all numbers, that's why it will get converted to integer value. But what about salary? Salary is a string. It will not get converted using int function. So it will display error. That's why to rectify this problem, we will be using next function so that the file pointer will move to the next record. As we don't want headers, we want to work on the actual file content. Finally, when we will print that record, we will be getting this output, row with the highest salary. Are we ready to write the same code in the ID? No, right? We don't have CSV file. To write content to the text file, we copied the data from the question paper and pasted in the notepad. Similarly, for the CSV file, you can copy the content and paste it in the Excel. After that, we will be saving the file. Make sure the folder should be same for both Python script and the CSV file. Specify the name according to the question, that is record, and type should be CSV, delimited. The first step is to import CSV module. The name of the user defined function is not mentioned, so we can give according to us. Now we need to open the file. For that we will be using open function. The name of the file is record.csv and the mode will be R mode. The next step is to create reader object. For that we will be using reader function of the CSV module and the name of the file pointer. To execute this function, we will be calling it. Can we print this reader variable and check that whether the file content is getting read or not? But when we look at the output, we could see that it is an object. We cannot write the content in this way. For that we need to iterate over it. For row in reader and then row by row we will be printing the data. Let's run and check. It is clear now that we could read the file content. We can see in this CSV file there is a header, but we are not interested into the header. For that we will be using next reader. So the file pointer will move to the next record. Now if you will display the records, you can see here the header is not getting printed. Let's work on the criteria. We need to print the row with the maximum salary. For that we have initialized one variable with 0 and we will keep on checking each record. Let's apply the condition with if statement. Look at the file content, everything is in the string and we have to work with the numbers. So we will be converting it to the integer. That's why apply the integer function. On what we are applying integer function? On the salary. So salary is at the index 3. So we will be writing row of 3. In this way string value got converted to integer. Now let's compare it with the max. If the salary mentioned here is greater than the variable max, then that will be maximum. In this way it will replace the max variable, that is integer row of 3. We are getting that salary at the index 3 and we need that whole row with the maximum salary. So we will be storing it into one variable named rake. Finally we will be printing the whole row with the highest salary, and we are getting that in a variable rake. Don't forget to close the connection with the close function. Let's run and check out the output. Hooray, we are getting the required output. We got the row with the maximum salary. 65,400 is the maximum salary among 3. Hope you understood this code. Let's move ahead to the next question. This question is based on the binary file. There is one inventory.dat binary file which stores information in the form of tuple. First is product ID, product name, quantity and price. We need to write one function named expensive products to read the content of the inventory.dat file. Then after reading the file, we will be displaying the details of the product with the price higher than 1000. Continue the question. Additionally, calculate and display the total count of such expensive product. Let's go through the given example. Here are the tuples which are in the binary file. So this user defined function will be printing the product ID who satisfies the criteria, means whose price is greater than 1000. So there are two products, one with 5000 and one with 2000. Along with printing, we need to count them. There are two products, so total expensive products will be 2. Let's try to understand the concept. We are working with binary file, so we need to import pickle module. The first step always to open the file. We are reading the file, so we are opening it into RB mode. We will be using load function of the pickle module to read the content of the binary file. So in this way we got the data. Now let's apply the criteria. Look at the tuple which are stored in the binary file. We are interested into the element that is price, which is at the index 3. So in this way we will be writing the condition if data of 3 is greater than 1000, and for such tuple we will be printing product ID which is at the index 0. Alright, the printing part is over. What is left now? We have to count those products. For counting, we have initialized one variable count 0, and when the criteria will get satisfied, we will increment it by 1. And at last, we will be printing the count of the expensive products. In case of binary file, we use infinite while loop to load the data. But what if when the data gets over and there is nothing to load? It will display error. To manage this error, we will be using try except block. That's why this whole code is in the try block. Try block will manage the error when there is no data to load. It will close the file. It's time to code. We need to read the content from the binary file. So binary file must exist. Like text file and CSV file, we cannot directly copy the content to the binary file because we know binary file content is not in the human readable form. That's why to execute the code, we must write a program to write the content in the binary file. So here is a small program with the help of which we are writing data to the binary file. But you don't have to write that. Let's run this program once and write the content to the file. Now I will add comment to it as already content is stored in the binary file. Now let's check out the required user defined function. The name is mentioned as expensive products. First of all, we need to open the required binary file. The name is inventory.dat and we will be opening it in a RB mode as it is a binary file. We use infinite while loop to load the content. So while true. Let's take one variable to load the file content. We will be using load function of the pickle module. The name of the file pointer is fp. Let's print and check out the data. From the output it is clear that we could read the content of the file, but along with that we are getting the error. That's why we should keep this code in the try except block. So let's do it. Here we will be writing try block and in the except block we will be closing the file, means when we will get the error. Now let's run and check it once again. Hooray, there is no error. We could read the file content properly. It's time to work out on the criteria. If price we will be getting at the index 3, it means data of 3 is greater than 1000, then we need to print the product ID of those records. Let's use print statement and print the product ID. In the tuple we could see that product ID is at the index 0. For that we will be writing data of 0. Let's run and check this partial program. Wow, we are getting the required product IDs. Now it's time to count. For that generally we use one variable count which will be initialized to 0. And when condition satisfies, then we will be incrementing it by 1. And finally we will be printing the count. So here is the statement for the same. Let's check the final output. We got the required output. We are printing the IDs and we are counting it. Hope you understood this code too. With that we completed the section D. Now it's time to move ahead to the section E. Here is the question number 33. It is based on networking concepts. This question seems big, but it is very easy to cover those 5 marks. Before attempting it, read it carefully. From the picture it is clear that head office is in Delhi and in Mumbai there are 4 blocks: admin, food, media and decorators. Now let's move ahead and check the remaining question. Here is the distance between the different blocks and in the next table we have number of computers in the blocks. Time to check out the first question. Suggest most appropriate location of the server inside the Mumbai campus. Along with that we have to justify answer. Here are the 4 blocks in the Mumbai location. From this table it is clear that admin block has maximum number of computers. So the admin block will act as a server. The second question is we need to draw cable layout to connect various buildings within Mumbai campus. Let's move ahead to the marking scheme. We have already discussed this type of questions. When we want to suggest cable layout, we can suggest any of these two. The first is star topology, which depends on the server location, and the second one is bus topology, which depends on the minimum distance between the blocks. When we want to suggest star topology, we just look at the server. We will be connecting other blocks to that block. And in case of bus topology, we need to take care of the distance between the blocks. I will suggest to go ahead with star topology because there is no doubt, no confusion in that. But you can choose any one, whichever you feel easy. Let's move ahead to the third question. Which hardware device will you suggest to connect all the computers within each block? And for that we use switch. What's the next question? Which of the following will you suggest to establish online face-to-face communication between people in the admin office in the Mumbai campus and the Delhi head office? We know for face-to-face communication we will be using video conferencing. What's the last question? What type of network out of PAN, LAN, MAN and WAN will be set up in each of the following cases? What's the first case? The Mumbai campus gets connected with the headquarters in Delhi. Mumbai and Delhi are different cities, so for that we will be using WAN. And the second case is the computers connected in the Mumbai campus. For that we will be using MAN. It is within the city. Alright, let's proceed and check the next question. There are two subparts. The first is we need to mention the difference between seek and tell function. Let's read the answer from the marking scheme. The purpose of seek is to reposition the final pointer to the specific location. It is used to change the position of the file pointer. What about tell? It returns the current position of the file pointer. It will tell where the pointer is. When we talk about the syntax, here is the syntax of the seek function. First parameter is offset and the second parameter is reference point. But in case of tell function, it doesn't take any argument. Here is the description of the parameter. It requires offset and it is the optional part, that is a reference point. And tell function doesn't require any parameter. You can write any two differences. It's time to check out the subpart of the 34th question. It is based on binary file. There is a flight.dat binary file which has the record in this format. Now we will be writing a function copy record, which copies all those records from this binary file where source is Delhi and the destination is Mumbai. Those records we need to copy it in a new record.dat file. Before writing the code, first try to understand the concept. There are two binary files. We are reading the flight.dat binary file and copying the data from flight to the record. While copying, we have some criteria. What's the criteria? Source should be Delhi and the destination should be Mumbai. Look at the data of the flight file. Source is at the index 3 and the destination is at the index 4. Alright then, let's try to understand the code. We are opening the flight file in the RB mode and record file in the WB mode. Now we are clear with the usage of try and except block. In the infinite while loop, we are using load function to load the content of the flight that we are getting into variable data. Now we need selected record that we will be taking with the criteria. What is the criteria? Source should be Delhi. That's why we have written like this. Data of 3 will be Delhi. And along with that, the second condition is destination should be Mumbai. For that, we have written data of 4 is equals to Mumbai. If the condition gets satisfies, those records we will be dumping to the record file. In this way, the required records will get written into the record file. Finally, we will be closing it into the except block. Okay, then do you want me to execute this code in the IDE too? If you have understood that explanation, you can skip this part. To read the content from the binary file, we should have data into the binary file. So with this code, we have the content in the flight.dat file that we will be reading. So let's write the required code now. According to the instructions, we have created the user defined function. We are opening the flight.dat binary file in the RB mode and opening record.dat file in the WB mode. You know the importance of try except block. Now using while loop, we will be loading the content from the flight file. Let's take one variable to load the content from the flight binary file. For that, we will be using load function from the pickle module. So pickle.load and the name of the file pointer is fpin. This is the input file for us. To make sure you are able to read the content of the file, you can print and check it. Okay, here is some sample data in the flight file. Now let's write the criteria. If data of 3 is equals to Delhi, and the second criteria is destination should be Mumbai, which is at the index 4. So let's write the string Mumbai. If the row satisfies this criteria, that row will get dumped into the record file. First we need to mention the variable followed by the file pointer. The file pointer for the record file is fpout. If you want to make sure that code is correct, we can print one message. Now let's run and check the output. This message is getting printed twice because there are two records which satisfies this criteria, where source is Delhi and the destination is Mumbai. Hope you understood this code too. We can see there is a OR part for the 34th question. Let's check out the first sub part of that. Mention any two difference between binary file and the CSV file. Moving to the marking scheme. Here are the differences. For binary file, we use pickle module, and for CSV file, we use CSV module. In binary file, data is stored in the form of zeros and ones, which is not in the human readable form, and that we cannot use any text editor to read it. In case of CSV file, data can be stored in the tabular fashion or comma separated by default. The file can be opened in the spreadsheet software like Excel, or we can use text editor like Notepad. Here are some of the extensions for the binary file, and for CSV file we use .csv extension. Time to move ahead to the next question. This question is also based on the binary file. You could see there are many questions based on files. So your concept of file should be clear. There is a binary file named book which has element in the form of dictionary. Here is the book name, and the values also is a list where B name, B type and price is mentioned. Moving ahead, let's check out the question. We need to write user defined function. The name is find book. It takes a parameter as price. Now we have to display all those records from the binary file which has a book price more than or equal to price value passed as a parameter. Let's try to understand the concept. Suppose we have two books in the library. I will be passing some price to this user defined function. and we need to display those books which has price more than this sent parameter. That's why look at the output. Here is the price of the book is 300, which is greater than the pass parameter. It means greater than or equals to 200. Now let's check the code. Here is the required user defined function which is taking a parameter price. The first step is to open the file in the read mode. We are using try except block as usual, and using while loop we will be loading the content from the binary file that we are getting in a data variable. The content of the file is in the form of dictionary, so we have to iterate over the key and values. For that we will be using items function of the dictionary. Look at the key value pair of the dictionary. Here is the key, and in the form of value we have one list. In that list the price is at the index 2. To make it easy, we have stored that price in one variable named book price. Now let's compare the price which will be sending into the variable price and the price of the book in the dictionary. If the book price which is in the dictionary is greater than or equal to the past price, then we will be printing the key and value for that book. In this way we will be getting this required output. You are absolutely correct. To execute this code in the IDE, first we should write the code to write the content to the binary file. So here is the code. Let's run and check whether it is getting executed or not. We are not getting any error, means data got stored. Now let's comment it. We will be not executing this code again. We have already solved many questions on the binary file. Now you know the structure of the program. With the load function, we have got the data into the data variable. If you want to make sure that file is getting read or not properly, call this function and print and check the data. Look at the output. The file content is getting read. Now it's time to iterate over the data which is in the form of dictionary, and we need both key and value. That's why we will be using key comma value. In the name of the variable is data, where we are getting the content in the dictionary format. We will be using item functions of the dictionary. Now let's take that variable to store the price of the book in the dictionary, which is at the index 2 in the value. It's time to write the condition. If book price is greater than or equal to the price which we have sent through the parameter, in that case we will be printing that book. So print key comma value. So here is the output. We sent 200 and the book price of Python is 300, which is greater than equal to 200. That's why we are getting this record. But in case of MySQL, it is not greater than 200 what we have sent through parameter. That's why MySQL is not getting printed. In this question there is no example to understand the concept. So read the question carefully and write the exact code. We are proceeding to the 35th question. Define the term constraint. A simple definition of constraint means it is a rule that we will be applying on the data which we stored in the table. But why we apply any rule? To limit the type of data that will be storing into the table. Here are some of the constraints: primary key constraint, unique constraint and not null constraint. When we apply primary key constraint, it doesn't allow duplicates, even it doesn't allow null values. Let's read the sub part of the same question. Read question carefully. This is based on connectivity. First question, complete statement number 1 to establish the connection with the database. Host is mentioned, user is mentioned, but password is missing. According to the instruction, the password is tiger. So in the statement 1, we need to write tiger. Moving ahead to the next question. Write statement 2 to create cursor object. To write cursor object, we use cursor function which works with the connection. Connection name is con1. So we will be writing con1 dot cursor. It's so simple. You will be generally getting one question for 4 marks like this, and it is very easy to cover those marks. Let's check out the next statement. It is used to remove the records from the table item based on the item name entered by the user. When we look at the statement 3, it's a complete query we need to design. And to remove record, we will be using delete command. So here is the query, delete from item. Now let's write the condition with the where clause. IName should be equal to this item name what we will be providing. So here is the placeholder for that, and using format function we are providing the item name. When we initialize query to a variable, I will suggest to write the query in triple single quotes. And one more thing we should keep in mind, when this parameter is of string type, we write this placeholder in a single quote. So follow this format, enclose the whole string of the query in a triple single quote and write the placeholder in a single quote if it is a string. Time to read the last question. Complete the statement 4 to save the changes in the table. To save the changes permanently in the table, we use commit function. In this way we completed all these 4 questions. There is a OR part 2. So let's check out. Write one difference between alternate key and candidate key. We have already studied that candidate key is single column or multiple columns which can be primary keys, means which has features to become a primary key. Then what about alternate key? There are many candidate keys which can be a primary key, but only one column will be primary key. The rest of the columns are called as alternate key, which couldn't be a primary key. You can very well understand this concept with one simple example. Consider there is an election for the head girl or head boy. There will be many students which will be competing for this post, but you know only one of them can be elected for that post. So head boy or head girl is the primary key, and all the students, those who are competing, we will call them as candidate key. And those students who are not elected as a head boy or head girl, those can be called as a alternate key. In the subpart of the OR section, we have one more question which is based on the connectivity. Read the question carefully. What's the first question? Complete line 1 to import appropriate module. For connectivity, we import mysql.connector. What's the second question? Complete line 2 to create cursor object. Just now we saw how to create cursor object. We use connection object, that is con1. Con1.cursor function we will be using to create cursor object. What's the next question? Complete the query. Look at the line 3. Here is the query. Select star from items where price is greater than. This is placeholder, and the price is more than 5,000. So in the format function we will be providing that quantity. It was so simple. Let's check out the last question. Complete line 4 to extract all the records. Look at the line 4. Data equals to my cursor dot. To fetch records we have 3 functions: fetch one, fetch many and fetch all. As we have to extract all the records, we will be using function fetch all. So this is the correct answer. With the completion of question number 35, we solve entire additional practice question paper. Hope you understood all the concepts. Now let's take a sneak peek of the pre-board examination question paper. Go through the questions carefully and try it yourself. I will be providing PDF in the description. And to cross-check your answers, I will be providing answer key for the same question paper. And that's the wrap for today's video. Remember, stay positive and keep pushing forward. In our next video, we will be revising the whole portion. So stay tuned for that. Until then, good luck with your preparation. I will see you in the next video.